Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, my guest is a returning guest, Lucas Aoun, who is an expert in all things health and performance. Back in 1980, only 15% of Americans were obese. Today, that number is a staggering 42%, with over 70% either overweight or obese. The UK has seen similar trends, as has Australia. We'll explore why this epidemic has escalated, focusing on the role of the modern food supply, historical influences like the sugar industry's impact, and groundbreaking treatments such as Ozempic. We explore what is Ozempic and how does it work. We'll delve into its benefits, risks, and the societal implications of widespread use. And we explore the healthy at any size body positivity movement. We touch on these topics and a hell of a lot more, so strap yourself in for my conversation with third-time guest, Lucas Aoun.
Come with me if you want to live.
Welcome back to the show, Lucas. I think this puts you in rarefied air 3 times on Future Squared. I think the only other guest I've had on 3 times is Tim Harford, who is like a New York Times best-selling author of multiple books. So I don't know, take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm pumped to be back, and I've always got some new fresh ideas to share. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. And I think today, we're here to talk all about Ozempic, but before we dive into that topic, I'd love to just shed some light on obesity statistics, especially over the past 40 or so years. So back in 1980, about 15% of Americans were obese. And today that number is 42%. More than 70% of all Americans are either overweight or obese today. And this trend has been replicated both in Britain, Australia, basically all Western countries. Now, why is this happening? Like, what's precluded this massive growth in obesity rates across the Western world, Lucas?
Well, as a population, as a whole, we're definitely getting a lot sicker and unhealthier. And so really, if we look at the main culprits behind the obesity epidemic, a lot of it would be due to like sedentary behaviors, lack of physical activity. That's going to be a big factor. Just really shitty diets, like selecting the wrong foods and going for highly palatable foods, selecting foods that taste nice, is the common issue that people face. And that sort of like instant gratification, like immediately searching for things that they want in the moment to get that dopamine hit. I also blame social media as well. I definitely think that like social media use, like there are young adults and teenagers that are like fully glued to their phones to the point where they're just like not even interested in going outside to play sports or things like that. So realistically, there are many different factors contributing to the obesity crisis that we're in, and that's brought the rise of new medications to treat obesity, of which we're talking about today, which is one of them, which is Ozempic. But yeah, there's many different factors, Stevie. Like there's a number of factors there.
So apart from that, so social media more or less came along with, MySpace and Friendster around the mid to late 2000s and really took off with Facebook around 2011 and shortly thereafter Instagram. But this food epidemic, or this overweight epidemic of sorts, has been going since the 1980s. So from between 1980 and 2000, there was a massive surge. And some experts say that big food had a lot to do with this. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that suggests that about 50 years ago, big food lobbied, scientists essentially to put out studies that essentially found fat to be the culprit. And as a result of that, they could flood our supermarket shelves with products like cereals that were fat-free, 99% fat-free, but absolutely loaded to the hilt with sugar. How much has that played a role in this epidemic?
Well, it's definitely contributing. If we look at the confusion that that lies in just the general population. When they go into a supermarket, they're identifying different foods and trying to understand like food labels. A lot of the time you'll see that like 5-star health rating that they put on different foods,
Yeah.
which is completely corrupt in my opinion.
Why is it corrupt?
Well, because I've seen scenarios where there are foods that, in my opinion, having studied naturopathy and been in the nutrition space for over 7 years, certain foods that they're labeling as like a 2-star rating, and obviously 5-star being the highest rating and 2-star being sort of low. There is no good rationale to list it as such a low rating. Like there really isn't any sort of legitimate research or evidence to back that rating.
So what kinds of foods might they list as, say, 2-star rating that should receive a much higher rating in your view?
I've seen scenarios where they've rated like turkey breast, like chicken mince, sometimes even like steak. It's like, really low ratings, sometimes even like yogurt, low fat milks, things like that.
Yeah.
That's and it's just like, as a consumer, like if you're completely brainwashed, you'll sort of, fall victim to that and then just select a product that is possibly like 5-star, which has like a shitload of sugar in there.
Yeah. It's kind of like how up until about 10 years ago, eggs were demonized as, they're going to give you cholesterol, you shouldn't eat too many eggs, and so on and so forth. And nowadays, I think it was the Weight Watchers food chart. They basically listed eggs as like a 0-point food, which essentially means you can eat as many of them as you want without having to worry too much about your weight or your health. It's funny how that sort of, we've come 180 as far as eggs are concerned, but also as far as fat is concerned. Like I was saying earlier, fat has been demonized, but now more and more people are waking up to the fact that most fats are actually not only good for you, but necessary as part of a balanced diet.
Yeah, I want to sort of outline the different types of fats for your audience. That's really important.
To keep listening to this episode, find Future Squared on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcatcher, or simply hit the link in the show notes.